The Russia-Ukraine war has become one of the most significant geopolitical events affecting global food systems in modern history. While many people initially viewed the conflict as a regional war confined to Eastern Europe, its economic consequences quickly spread across the entire world. One of the most noticeable and persistent effects has been the rise in global food prices. From bread and cooking oil to livestock feed and fertilizers, the war has disrupted multiple layers of the global food supply chain. Even years after the conflict began, food markets are still dealing with shortages, transportation challenges, higher production costs, and trade disruptions. Today, we will talk about why the Russia-Ukraine war is still raising food prices worldwide. So, before we start, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Russia and Ukraine. The breadbasket of the world, one of the main reasons the war has had such a large impact on food prices is because Russia and Ukraine are among the world's most important agricultural exporters. Together, the two countries produce and export large quantities of wheat, corn, barley, and sunflower oil that feed hundreds of millions of people globally. Before the war began, Russia and Ukraine together accounted for a significant share of global grain exports, including roughly 25% of wheat and barley exports and around 15% of maize exports. In addition, the two countries dominate the global sunflower oil market, supplying a major portion of the cooking oil used in many countries. Because wheat and corn are staple foods used to make bread, pasta, animal feed, and many processed foods, disruptions in supply quickly translate into higher prices. Countries that depend heavily on imports from Russia and Ukraine suddenly found themselves competing for limited supplies from other producers. This supply shock has been one of the main reasons global food prices surged after the war began, and why they have remained elevated since then. Disruption of Ukrainian agricultural production. Another major factor driving global food inflation is the damage the war has caused to Ukraine's agricultural production. Ukraine has long been known as one of the most fertile farming regions in the world due to its rich black soil, known as Chernozem. Large areas of the country are dedicated to growing grains and oilseeds that supply international markets. However, the war severely disrupted farming activities across the country. Agricultural land in conflict zones became inaccessible due to military operations, damaged infrastructure, landmines, and destroyed irrigation systems. Research shows that Ukrainian crop production declined significantly during the war, with wheat production dropping and other crops such as soybeans and maize also experiencing large declines. In some regions, farmers were unable to plant or harvest crops because of ongoing fighting or lack of equipment and fuel. These production losses reduced the amount of food available for export, tightening global supply and pushing prices higher. Blocked and damaged Black Sea ports. One of the most critical disruptions caused by the war has been the blocking and damage of Ukraine's Black Sea ports. These ports, such as Odessa, Mariupol, and Kherson, serve as the primary export routes for Ukrainian agricultural products. Before the war, approximately 95% of Ukraine's grain exports were shipped through Black Sea ports. When the conflict escalated, naval blockades and military attacks made it difficult or impossible for cargo ships to safely transport grain from these ports. Even temporary closures created large backlogs of grain that could not reach international markets. Although some agreements and alternative routes have been established to allow limited exports, the overall export capacity has remained significantly lower than before the war. This logistical disruption continues to contribute to higher food prices worldwide. Fertilizer shortages and rising agricultural costs. Food production does not depend solely on crops themselves, it also relies heavily on fertilizers that improve crop yields. Russia is one of the largest exporters of fertilizers in the world, supplying a significant portion of global nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium fertilizers used in agriculture. Fertilizers play a crucial role in modern farming, helping increase crop yields by 30 to 50% in many agricultural systems. However, the war and related sanctions disrupted fertilizer exports from Russia and limited availability in global markets. As fertilizer supplies became constrained, prices rose sharply. Higher fertilizer costs make farming more expensive for farmers around the world. When farmers pay more for fertilizers, seeds, fuel, and machinery, those costs are eventually passed on to consumers in the form of higher food prices. Rising energy prices and agricultural inputs. Another important connection between the war and food. Prices is energy. Agriculture is highly dependent on fuel and energy for various activities, including operating farm equipment, transporting crops, and producing fertilizers. The war contributed to volatility in global energy markets, which increased fuel costs for farmers and food producers. When diesel prices rise, the cost of running tractors, harvesters, irrigation systems, and food transportation also increases. Energy costs also affect fertilizer production because many fertilizers are produced using natural gas and other energy-intensive processes. When energy prices increase, fertilizer production becomes more expensive, which further drives up agricultural costs. These combined factors create a chain reaction that raises food prices across global markets. Export restrictions and trade barriers. Another factor contributing to rising food prices is the increase in export restrictions and trade barriers following the war. Many countries implemented export bans or restrictions on certain food products to protect their domestic supply. While these measures may help stabilize local markets temporarily, they often worsen shortages in global markets. When multiple countries restrict exports simultaneously, the amount of food available for international trade decreases, pushing prices even higher. Trade sanctions imposed on Russia have also complicated agricultural trade by restricting financial transactions, shipping insurance, and logistics. Even when food products are sold, they are not sold in stores. Themselves are not directly sanctioned. Payment and transportation challenges can slow down exports. If you liked this video and would like to see more like it, please give it the thumbs up, leave a comment, and click the button to subscribe.